Okay, here we go. It's episode 124 of the Daily Puck Drop here on Wednesday, May 29th. We welcome you in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching or listening. We appreciate the support, however you do it. Please like and subscribe and download all the different ways. YouTube, Amazon. I always say Amazon first for some reason. I know most of you probably don't listen on Amazon, but hey, shout out to you, Amazon listeners. Also, of course, on Apple and Spotify and all the different platforms. And can I make a suggestion? And this is not just for the Android users, for anyone. The YouTube Music app, I think, is quietly like my favorite one because not only can you listen to the audio, but you can also watch it all right there. You can toggle back and forth. So whatever platform you use, please like and subscribe, leave a comment. It all helps the cause here at pucksports.com. Here we go, the Daily Puck Drop, hashtag the DPD, episode 124. We got the Mariners a little bit to talk about. I want to revisit a conversation, at least a soundbite from John Canzano and his weekly appearance that we had yesterday. I meant to play some audio from Roxy Bernstein from his sign off on the Pac-12 baseball tournament. I didn't get to, so we're going to get to that. I went to the Mariners game yesterday. I had to pay Brad Adam. Shout out to Brad, John Howie Steak, that brings you a Brad Adam every single week. So I had to take his gift cards to him. And boy, you know who was there? Down in the clubhouse, walking around, shaking hands, Mariners owner John Stanton. Interesting. So we got some news on John Stanton that we're going to get to. Bronny James makes a decision. Also, Jaylen Wells makes a decision. We'll get to that. An update on Hey Want the Puck, on our GameChanger scoring fiasco, and I reunited with an old friend, Ty France. Ty France and I were reunited years after the infamous interview with myself and Jim Moore about how awkward that one was. We did another interview, still awkward, but better. Okay, but better. All right, Mariners Chaos Baseball. It is alive and well and kicking. And we talked about this yesterday with Brad. We'll talk about it again today when Ryan Divish comes on for his weekly appearance. This is the formula in which they're going to win games. This is how they're going to win. They win this way. You go look at their stats and what they do against team starters. Even someone is, I don't know, as poor as Hunter Brown is. I mean, it's not like Hunter Brown came into this game electric and one of the best starters in the American League. He's not. But they just cannot, for the life of them, do anything against a starter. But what they do is once they get into a team's bullpen, they're unbelievable. And their stats back it up. They go seventh inning or later in a game, and they just find ways to win. It's improbable. It is what I've always used. They're so maddening, but exciting at the same time, because they are, as we've said routinely, is how much they're just a flawed baseball team. But yet they're, in a weird way, they're a fun, flawed baseball team. I don't know how they're winning games. All right. Is there a little bit of luck? Yeah, probably. I'm not a big run differential guy. We've talked about that, but I do think it shows you like how a team is performing, right? Good and bad. If a team's got a losing record, but their run differential is really high in a positive way, in a positive run differential, it just tells you that maybe they're getting some unlucky breaks. They're not capitalizing. They're just, flat out just getting unlucky in some of those games. I think when you look at where the Mariners are at right now in terms of their run differential, they're -4, which is just remarkable that they are 4 games over 500, and they have themselves, a 3.5 game lead on Texas. They're 5.5 games now up on Houston after taking the first 2 games of the season. If you look at the other teams in baseball right now, in terms of their run differential and the division leaders, here's what we got. We got The Dodgers, who just, were the freaking Dodgers with their, Hall of Fame team they've put together, plus 75. You got the Brewers at plus 46. The Phillies leading the East are at plus 88. The Guardians are at plus 77. And the Yankees leading the AL East are at plus 91. So, I mean, you see the gap between all of the other teams in baseball, division leaders, and where the Mariners are at in terms of run differential, and it's massive. Now, again, is that the end all be all? We chatted a little bit, I think, yesterday with Brad on that one on his appearance. No, it really at the end of the day, it's just, do you win games? Do you win a game 4-3? Do you win a game 14-3? At the end of the day, all of it matters. But it is an indication of just how dominant you can be. And right now, I mean, they're not dominant. I think everybody, I don't need a run differential stat or some putts like me telling you that. They get by because they've got great starting pitching. For the most part, the bullpen has been good. It's been shaky of late, but it was great last night. I mean, last night was unbelievable what they were able to do with Saucedo and Stanek and Voth. They were great, but they stay in these games. They don't do much against the starters, but once they get in other teams' bullpens, they just take advantage of it. I mean, they're seventh inning and on numbers in all of baseball. They rank like top 5 in everything, like almost in every statistical category of note, including strikeouts still. And they just have an ability that once they get there, once they find someone's bullpen, they start to do damage. Yesterday was just unbelievable. I mean, Hunter Brown's shoving it down their throat. Haniger gets a double. Then Clase comes in to run for Haniger. Then Ryan Bliss comes up, young man who was just called up. He tries to bunt not once but twice. I love it. Everybody should love the bunt. Couldn't get it down. Almost got it down on the second attempt. He ends up though falling down 0-2. Rookie in that situation, most likely. Okay, what's the probability here? Probably going to strike out. Doesn't. As Josh Rojas pointed out in the postgame, that's the best at-bat of the night. And he's right. It was the best at-bat of the night. He ends up drawing a walk, gets on base. Then there's a wild pitch. So then Clase gets to third. Rojas with a hard hit ball down the first base line that gets past Abreu, which ties the game. Then you get the infield hit by Julio, which doesn't travel far, but then Bregman's got to run in to field it. He's got to see if he can make a play at home. He can't make a play at home. Then he's got to reverse it and try to get the out at first because Julio's so goddamn fast, he beats it out. It's an errant throw. And then so both Bliss and Rojas are able to score. I mean, so for all of it, it didn't really do anything. Well, other than Haniger's double. Rojas's ball was hit hard, and Abreu was going to make it. But it's just they have just done these little things throughout the season like that to put themselves in the position they're at right now, 4 games over 500, and it's just I watch them most nights, and I scratch my head, and I can't figure out how they're here at this moment. But I think what it does illustrate a little bit with these guys is if they can just get a little bit more offensive help when they get to the deadline, they could be a real damn good, scary team. They have yet to scratch the surface on who they can be and what they can be. But I also, a flawed baseball team that was put together that really, for the most part, is a surprise that I think that they are playing this well. They are getting benefited from the poor play behind them. Had Texas been able to do anything in this past stretch, they would have overtaken them. But the Mariners righted that ship through that 10-game road trip. They've come back home. They've handled their business so far against Houston, and we'll see if they can hang on. We can get to the offseason and then bitch and moan about what they did or didn't do. You could say it right now that all the off-season acquisitions, minus Rayleigh. Israeli's been good, but Garver has not been a success. Polanco has not been a success. Haniger was a success in the beginning of the year, but then they ran him out there so damn much, so he's tired, he's banged up, and they're going to wear him out, so they can't play him all the time. So their offseason, has not worked out for them. They're getting contributions from others, and somehow winning these games in a chaotic fashion, as Scott Service said last night, because that's how they're going to have to win every night for the most part. They're never going to blow anybody out. They're never going to win a game comfortably. It makes it exciting baseball because you know what they're like. It's like watching the NBA when you used to watch the NBA, because I know a lot of you don't watch the NBA anymore. It's like when you watch the NBA and you wouldn't watch the first 3.5 quarters of the game because nothing really happens. You'd tune into the NBA to sit there and watch like the last 2 to 5 minutes, because that's where all the action happens. The Mariners are kind of like that in a way, is that you almost just don't want to watch the first 6 innings of baseball and then flip it on and then watch the 7th inning on, because that's where all the action happens. That's where all the excitement is. Except for Luke Raley making a hell of a play there in that 2nd inning to rob Jeremy Pena of that home run. But I don't know. I just shake my head. I sometimes run out of words to describe what you watch every single night with these guys, because I don't think I've ever watched a baseball team that looks so inept for the first 5-6 innings of a game, and then for some reason comes alive in the 7th inning. The downside of it is that it's hard to replicate that every single night. That's just really, really hard. That's going to be one of the things that Divish and I on today's show that will be released at 1 o'clock. We'll address that and talk about that, because that's hard to replicate for a full 162 game season. It works in the playoffs. They are a team that is built for the playoffs. You got to get there first. They're well on their way to getting there. I think ultimately some think that the Central will drop off, that Cleveland will drop off. Maybe the Royals will drop off. We'll see. But I do believe the wild card's going to come out of there. And I think Seattle's got to have to win the division. Going to have to win the division, or they're not getting in. Now, they might sneak in. We'll see what happens with the Twins and all that kind of stuff. But they make it entertaining almost every single night of how they play, especially late in those games. The other benefit from that game yesterday, not only was it the win 4-2, it was another cover. We hit the under again. The Bet M's under summer tour continues. We're on a little bit of a hot streak right now. We're betting the under on every single Mariners game. The DraftKings Sportsbook app. So you got to look at the DraftKings Sportsbook app, see the total. The total tonight is 7, but last night, 7.5 last night. Final was 4-2. So the under hits 12, 14, and 1 on the season for the Bet M's under summer tour continues. Tonight, it'll be Justin Verlander, 3-2 with a 3.60 ERA against your guy, George Kirby, who's at 4-5 with a 4.33 ERA. One of the lowest run totals we've had tonight on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, 7. But again, it's a marathon, folks. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You bet the under again. Red hot. I think we've won 3 in a row. 12, 14, and 1 there on the season. I had a listener or a follower on Twitter send me a graph showing all of the owners' wealth in baseball and where John Stanton ranks in terms of that wealth. And I mentioned it before that I saw John Stanton. He was just walking around in the clubhouse yesterday. I went down there to go check out, go check out the boys and go check out with Brad Adam and do a quick little interview with Ty France. And so we see him there, and I fight every urge to be like, "Hey, man, can you spend more money, sir? Is there a chance that you can spend more money on the team? Is there a chance you cannot take $500,000 to upgrade your stadium there in Walla Walla?" But he was in there shaking hands, meet with Scott Service, met with a couple players, and then bounced down. He had a couple people with him. He was parading around there in the clubhouse. But Divish will talk about this. I think Divish and the Times have something that's coming out shortly with John Stanton, just talking about the future of like root sports and TV. And well, we know the future of root sports, but the future of like, where are they going to go? Where are you going to be able to consume them next season? But if you look at this list and this, God, and I'm blank on Jeff, I think it was Jeff that sent this to me. So shout out to Jeff. If you look at the list of owners and net worth, there is only 5 owners in baseball that we know what their net worth is, that have a net worth lower than John Stanton. Ken Kendrick has got the same worth. He's worth $1.1 billion. So John Stanton, also with Chris Larson, they're worth $1.1 billion. That's what according to this graphic. So Kendricks is at 1.1. The other guys that are underneath him, Cincinnati, Bob Castanelli, who is the owner of the Reds, he's only net worth is $400 million. Jesus. I mean, again, I know it's $400 million. It's a lot of money. That is so poor for a sports owner. And now you want to know why the Reds trade people and can't afford anyone? Because their owner is worth $400 million. Colorado's owner, Dick Monfort, he inherited the money from his family, the meat services, $700 million. Okay, so he's underneath them. Mark Antanasio. Now, again, here's Milwaukee, because this guy's not worth a lot. And $700 million for there. But look at, well, Milwaukee's right now leading the Central, playing great baseball. They didn't give a bunch of money to Craig Counsell because he got a bunch of money from the Cubs. But they're playing great. No one expected this from the Milwaukee Brewers, what they're doing this season. Bob Nutting, great name, by the way. The Pirates, he's worth $1.1 billion. Then that's Stanton. And then it's Stuart Sternberg for the Rays is $800 million. He's the other owner that is worth less than John Stanton. We don't know. Rogers Communications, they don't list it, but I'll tell you right now, Rogers Communications, millions and millions and millions. And then the other one, we don't know, the Braves Holdings, but it's millions as well. So what this shows you with John Stanton is, and we've said this before, 1.1 billion is 1.1 billion. It's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money when you're a Major League Baseball owner. That's the problem with these guys. He's not owner rich. He's rich, but not like owner rich. And you need to be like fat, happy, like owner, super rich to own one of these baseball teams. And he's just not that. And I think that's why when you hear about, some of these financial issues that they have and the issues with like the TV, with Root Sports, and what are they doing with that and everything, it sheds some light on it that they they operate in a big market, which Seattle is a big market. Again, don't let anybody tell you it's not a big market. It is. But they don't operate as a big market team. And I think what was illustrated was this past offseason. I mean, the reason you go out and get someone like Jorge Polanco as an injury history, the reason you went out and got Mitch Haniger and Mitch Garver is because these players were, they all have major flaws, injuries and age and things like that, and they're cheap. And that's what they did. That offseason was built on cheapness. Now, right now, it's working out great for them because they are leading the division. But when it comes, my biggest fear is that when it comes to the deadline, and they want to make a move, and they want to be aggressive, and if they've got to do something with a move that makes sense for them, but part of it is they've got to eat some salary, will they do it? Will they open up the checkbooks and do it? Part of me just says they're not going to do it. But then there's the other, optimistic fan, if I can be an optimistic fan, that says that they'll try, that they'll do everything. This has got to be the year they do it. And we're going to harp on this a lot on the Daily Puck Drop. We're going to harp on it a ton until we get to the deadline. This is the year they must do something. They've got to do something big at the deadline. They cannot go and say, well, we like what the team is at right now. Can't do it. There is no penalty in baseball or sports for adding better players. No penalty for it. So do it. Just add better players. I want to revisit a conversation we had yesterday with John Canzano. In case you missed it, was a good one yesterday. All brought to you by Zeke's Pizza. John's the best. He's a great storyteller. He's a great broadcaster. He's a great reporter. And he brought this up on his radio show I think, a few weeks ago and wrote about it in his mailbag. And just to kind of set the scene, there was a track championship taking place in Oregon, and there was a transgender athlete, was born a boy, and then transitioned to a female, who ended up running in the 200 and 400 meter track and field championships in Oregon. I think ended up, I might be wrong on this, I think they ended up finishing second in the 400, but won the 200. Was racing in the female division, and it was, it was very divided, and it was a hot topic down there, and there were emotions running high on both sides. And so the transgender athlete ended up winning the 200. The female, who ended up finishing second, was pretty heartbroken about it. There were, when the award ceremony and they had the podium, the trans athlete was booed, as John had noted that, the had to have higher security from the, once they got to the facility, in and out of the facility, all of that, because of fearful of what could potentially happen. So John opened this up on his radio show and just said, let's just have a conversation about it. And I thought it was an important one. I think you can have this conversation without everybody like yelling and screaming at each other, because I think there are valid points on both sides. But this is what John said yesterday on our podcast.
Come back to the word fair. Was it fair?
Right.
Was what happened fair? And that's really what I was wrestling with as I started the radio show that Monday. And I was like, no, it wasn't fair to the girl who finished second. Frankly, it wasn't fair to the trans kid who, got booed and, humiliated and jeered at. And, right. I'm trying to be sensitive to, I keep coming back to like the word inclusion. And I think it's a word that gets thrown around a lot now. But I think there's a place in the competition for everybody to compete, for everybody to feel good about where they're competing. And then you let what happens on the court dictate who wins or what happens on the track. But the way it went down, I mean, the OSAA, to me, looks like it's begging for a lawsuit to help it determine what its position should be.
We talked about this yesterday. I'll just kind of reiterate what I said yesterday to John. I think that the thing with this is you want as many people doing sports, high school kids doing sports. We don't want to exclude anyone. You want to include as many people as possible. I think, and I don't know what else to add, that I just agree with what John said. And really the solution that John came up with that I would wholeheartedly support, and would be curious to see if Oregon ends up doing that, if the state of Washington ends up doing that, or any state that is faced with a similar situation, is there's got to be 3 separate divisions. I think you make a boy division, you make a female division, and then you just call it, it's an open invitation, an open division where anyone can participate. So if you're a trans athlete, you participate there. If you are a male and you want to run in there, you run in there. If you are a female, you run in there. And I think that's the easiest solution to this, because I think John is right. I think if you are a female running in that race, I think it is unfair that you're running against an athlete who was born a boy. And that's tough. And I don't think it's being disrespectful at all. I just think that inherently boys are going to grow up, just their physical stature going to be bigger and faster and stronger. Doesn't mean they're better athletes. And there's certainly female athletes that are better than boys. I've seen it all the time, coaching, t-ball and baseball, and I could see it, that the girls that played baseball with us were better than the boys that played. But as they get older, especially in high school, there's just different genes, different muscles, a different structure and all that. And so I think it's fair for the female athlete to just sit there and run against females in high school, track or any high school sport. If we want to then open up and have a separate division where it includes everyone, and even females that want to run against boys, test themselves out. Like when Michelle Wee went on the PGA Tour and qualified for an event or got a sponsor's exemption, she wanted to test herself against the male golfers. because what John said is, I think, to me is right. I don't think it was fair to the young woman who finished second, but I also don't think it was equally unfair to the trans athlete to sit there and get up on the podium, happy of what they accomplished, of all the time and effort and work they put in, but then is being booed and then has to hire security because they are fearful of what possibly could happen to them as they are walking in and out of the stadium. So none of that is correct. And so, like the state of Oregon and or anybody that's got to face something similar to that, they better figure this out because it's something that's not going away, and you better address it. Address it though that makes it fair for everyone. And I think you can have a fair, open, mature conversation about this without everybody yelling and screaming, projecting, and not listening to one another. Just listen to one another because there are valid points on both sides. It's not that you have to agree with everyone, but you don't have to be yelling and screaming at them to disagree. But again, you can listen to that podcast yesterday. It was good. We went way more into that. It's about 40 minutes long. A good chunk of it is on that, at least the last like 15, 20 minutes of it. Just go to pucksports.com. Wherever you find your podcast, just search up John Canzano and you will see yesterday's episode with him. Roxy Bernstein, I wanted to play this yesterday. I didn't get to it. He signed off. He was the very last broadcaster on the Pac-12 network because the baseball tournament for the Pac-12 wrapped up on Friday. So he was the last one to sign off because it was the last programming in the current structure of the Pac-12 that network will ever have. It was semifinal baseball game. Roxy, I've known Roxy for a long, long, long time. A great dude. And you cut that man open in outpours, his love for this conference. He grew up in this conference. He grew up on the West Coast, went to Cal, all of it. This conference is deeply rooted in someone like Roxy Bernstein. And so, I thought what he said on Friday was really, really cool.
On a personal level, this league is deep in my heart and soul. As a Bay Area kid, I went to Cal and Stanford games. I grew up on Pac-10 sports, was introduced to the legendary athletes, teams, tradition, rivalries. Graduating from Cal and getting my first big break when I was 23, becoming the radio voice of Cal basketball, I've been associated with this conference for nearly all my life. Like so many of you out there, it means more to me than I can express. It's been such a privilege to sit in this seat and be a part of it all. It's been a fantastic run, and we've had an absolute blast bringing you these games. As my good friend Bill Walton says, thank you for my life.
It was well said there by Roxy. Just fighting back, probably choking up there a little bit. And it's I watched that, and then I watched the championship game on Saturday, and I just we talk about all the history of football and basketball players, but I mean, you go look at the alumni that have played in this conference for baseball. It is a who's who of great Hall of Fame players, and it hit me a little bit hard. It hit me this weekend. Just God, it's really over. It's going to really hit me in the fall. Probably going to hit a lot of you in the fall as well. That it's over, and I think for Washington and Oregon fans, but let's because mainly we're just talking to Washington fans. I think you have that, the fallback is the Big Ten. And there's part of that is massively exciting. One, you're not left out. Your future in college athletics is, for the most part, is secure. You get a chance to go play in Happy Valley. There'll be games against Ohio State and Michigan. All that kind of stuff is cool. And you've had a relationship with the Big Ten. But I think even Washington fans are going to sit back in the fall on Saturdays and go, man, it kind of miss playing Oregon State and Corvallis. I kind of miss playing the Arizona schools. I miss that trip down to Tucson or to Arizona State, or I miss going to Pullman, or I miss the Cougars coming to Seattle. I mean, I know that they're going to probably continue their series. I miss going to the Bay Area trips. I think you're going to miss it. You're going to miss the Pac-12 after dark. You're going to miss all the craziness of the conference and the history that went with it. I think over time you'll get over it. But I think initially, for all fans, me as a Wazoo fan or Oregon State fans, you're scared because of the uncertainty of everything and where are you going to be in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. But I think everybody collectively who has grown up in this conference and wherever you've gone, the Big Ten, the Big 12, ACC, all of it. Everyone's spread across now of the country. I think we'll sit back on Saturday night, 7 o'clock, and going, fuck, we miss it. We miss it. I'm going to miss turning on Pac-12 after dark and to see the recap show of all the games that maybe you didn't catch that day. And I think that's when I think the reality of the conference being dismantled will hit a lot of people. Real quickly, Jaylen Wells and Bronny James announcing they're going to stay in the NBA draft. There's a couple of mock drafts out there. The Ringers got James going 55 to the Lakers, and keep an eye on that one because the Lakers have picked 17 and 55. Now, I don't think they're going to use the 17th pick on Bronny James, but God, who knows? If LeBron really wants to play with his kid, maybe he forces the Lakers to take him there, or they get him at 55. ESPN's got Jaylen Wells going 54 to Boston. ESPN does not include Bronny James at all being selected. We'll see. I think Jaylen Wells can actually have a pretty decent NBA career. He's a great shooter, sits in the corner, plays pretty good defense. I think he's going to carve out a pretty good niche there in the NBA because he's a fantastic shooter. He already has that range. He's got to get better with his ball handling and stuff like that. For Bronny, I'll say this. I mean, he gets overhyped because of his last name. I've said it many times, though. The guy plays hard. He plays really, really hard, like all the time. I don't know what his NBA career is going to be. He's going to be unfairly criticized. He's going to always be compared to his father. The Lakers will probably take him at 55 if he's there because they want to keep LeBron. And LeBron wants to play with this kid. Every one of you would do the same thing. You can have your criticism of LeBron all you want, me included. But if you were in his position and you had a chance that the team you played for could draft your kid, you'd do it. And if you were at his stature, like LeBron is, you would force the team to do it. Every one of you, including myself, we all would do it. Just think about playing a sport with your son and how awesome that would be. I mean, look at the Griffeys. Do you think the Griffeys ever regret that decision that Ken Griffey, a senior who really couldn't play all that much anymore, comes to Seattle so he could play with Junior? You think anybody looks at that and goes, well, that was terrible? When they hit, back-to-back home runs and the smiles on their faces. I mean, it was awesome. It was a cool story. So we'll see if Bronny James ends up getting selected there by the Lakers at 55. All right, we wrap it up here. The DPD, the Daily Puck Drop. Hey, what the puck? So I look back on GameChanger. I gave so many errors in that inning, legit errors, that I actually thought on that hit I described yesterday, that routine little pop fly that happened that fell between the second baseman and shortstop, I thought that I gave him the shortstop an error on that one. I did not. I actually gave a hit. So for all of you people who said I should have given him a hit, I did give him a hit. I was confused. I thought I gave the kid an error, but I actually did give the guy a hit. I still think it should be an error, but now I don't have to go back and correct it because it was a hit. A lot of you made good points, and I'll probably stand corrected, and I think most of you are right. They didn't make a play on the ball. It happens. It's, little league like. I mean, they're 10 and 11 years old. It's a hit is a hit. Does it feel dirty? As one buddy pointed out to me, does it feel dirty that it's a hit? Yeah, but it's a hit. So I don't have to correct it because I actually did give the kid a hit, not an error on our shortstop. But there were just a lot of errors in that inning. All right, lastly, so I went to T-Mobile yesterday, did a reunion interview with Ty France. And if people don't remember, we had Ty France on the radio show a couple of years ago, Jim and I, and it was just a train wreck. And in large part a train wreck because of me. One, he couldn't hear us. He was on a speakerphone. Wherever they were at, it was just the audio quality was terrible. I tried to play off some stupid joke about Caddyshack. Hey, Ty, will you tie me up with some of your ties, Ty? And he couldn't really hear it. But then when I had to repeat it for like the third time, he's like, I don't know what that is. And really, for the most part, it was just kind of downhill from there. It was a top 3 terrible, awkward moment in the Puck and Jim show. Not to be topped, of course, by the young man from Virginia and Virginia Tech, old Joey Blunt. That was the worst one. So I caught up with Ty yesterday. We didn't reenact it, but we had a reunion of sorts inside the Mariners clubhouse. I'm going to put that exclusively up there on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow there on both at Puck 2040, Puck 2040. The interview yesterday with Ty France. We talk about Caddyshack. We relive the awkward moment. But it will be up there very, very soon. So go check out Instagram and Facebook. If you're not following on both, please go follow. We put a bunch of our clips up there every single day on Instagram and Facebook. Again, Puck 2040 on both of those platforms. Not as awkward as the first time around, but still kind of a little awkward. We talk about the not only just that interview back in the day, but also as a new father. And all you dads out there can relate to being a new father. And so he just had a son, he and his wife. So congratulations to the France household on that. Just talked to him about being a new dad and all the challenges that come with being a brand new parent. All right, that is it for the Daily Puck Drop, the DPD episode 124 here on Wednesday. Coming up later. Oh, in fact, we're going to release it a little bit sooner. Because I got an appointment. We're going to release the Ryan Divish episode a little bit sooner today. I would say probably around noon today. Divish will talk about, obviously, last night's win, the state of the Mariners, the Julio hitting third, Logan Gilbert coming out early, where they need help in the bullpen, and probably another position player. So that's coming up later today here at pucksports.com. We will talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
Shirt, no shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!